Okay, so I don't take any responsibility for the the verity of this, the truth of this article, but it seems like a fascinating article on the history of Shemitah. So, modern history of Shemitah. So I like to do it. From farmers to consumers. Hasipur lo mukar shel Shemitah b'migdar Haredi. The unknown story of Shemitah in the Haredi sector of society. In the afternoon of a summer Wednesday, September 2015, Lav Shayir Bnei Brak Chag. Bnei Brak became festive. Chamishayim Bnei Rosh Hashanah, 5 days Rosh Hashanah Shevaser Es Yumar Ishmi Shnas Shemitah Tavshin which would be the formal end of Shemitah of 2015. Which is the last Shemitah before this one. There was a jam on Rechov Chazanish of agricultural trucks, which were decorated, utorim, and tractors, which were decorated as well. To the city, there flowed Haredi children from the entire land, wearing Shabbos clothing in honor of the occasion, obviously. They came to give accolades to the people who were powerfully brave, who fulfilled the will of God. The farmers who desisted and kept Shemitah. Who walked in the middle of the festive procession. So the great rabbis and the rabbi of the city also participated in the event. They covered the shomtim in order to give honor to those people keeping Shemitah. If this procession, this parade, had taken place in the 60s and 70s, then the farmers who would be marching in the middle of the parade would be Haredim themselves. So the inhabitants of the Haredi kibbutzim, b'nei moshavim, people living in moshavim, and balei matim, people who possess orchards. Lo yamen afilu kama yitoshvei bnei Brak atzma hayu az balei pardesim galei chogim. You would not believe how many of the residents of Bnei Brak itself then yet had orchards and grew esrogim. Ach b'shnat 2015, the distinction between the farmers and their hosts who were celebrating was clear. But the Haredim were all wearing uniformly black and white, and their pale skin color, Me'id al Ironius, testified to their urban lives, Ironius Mufekis, their truly urban lives, and on an extended stay between the walls of the base medrash. The farmers had on their heads freshly pressed and new yarmulkes. And some of them met their Haredi customers for the first time. This gap, Manik Hatzatza, gives us a keyhole peek, the Sipura Shemitah Tzibur Haredi, to the story of Shemitah in the Haredi population. The disappearance of Haredi farmers from the scene. It doesn't say that there is a less emphasis on Shemitah in the sector. The opposite is true. Those who went around in the past few months in the streets of the Haredi cities, those who cruising would see tens of announcements and pronouncements from rabbis, uh, uh, um, uh, organizations, uh, customer groups, consumer groups, and Torah institutions. All of them involved in perspectives on Shemitah in manners which were unprecedented. Mishmita l'shmita, from Shemitah kach nireh, hatzibur HaCharedi chogeg oso yoser yoser. From Shemitah to Shemitah, the Haredi community celebrates Shemitah to an even greater extent each time. The food cooperatives signed on agreements concerning Shemitah even before the sixth year began. The great kashrus bodies already prepared and ready. Also, the books and pamphlets of Torah, about the seventh year of Shemitah, they flood the Batei Medrash. But the Haredi Shemitah of the 1920s, doesn't look at all like the Shemitah of the 1950s and 1960s. And the Shemitahs of the 80s and 90s, the years in which this Haredi sector gained significant empowerment, 21 are like the Shemitahs of the 21st century. The lessons of the burning failure. The issue of Shemitah is one of the major milestones. In the founding, and development of the Haredi community in Israel. In the 1920s and 30s, young Haredi people left the walls of the old Yishuv. And they started setting up settlements in Eretz Yisrael, to which new immigrants from Europe joined. This is under the auspices of the Agudas Yisrael movement, and its daughter movement, Poli Agudas Yisrael. They came to Yisrael, and they set up throughout the breadth and width of Israel, kibbutzim, moshavim, moshavos, v'ayaros, settlements and cities. Farming was then the keystone of the local economy. And the Haredi farmers had their own principles. Foremost among their special principles was their relationship to the most difficult mitzvah of the mitzvahs which have to do with Eretz Yisrael, mitzvahs HaShemitah, the mitzvah of keeping Shemitah. And here we have a picture of the Chazon Ish. החקלאים החרדים נכנסו לזירה תאונה. The Haredi farmers entered a zira is like a fighting ring, a halachic a fraught halachic fighting ring. It was several decades already. The question about the mechira mabsher, let's say a mechira formalis, which allows making a formal sale damos of the lands l'nachlim to the Jews, and to continue working the land during Shemitah. His iras yishuv was something which caused storms in the community, the Salam attorney and the Torah world. Mitzad echad amdu sholei heter. On one side stood those who rejected that. V'hem rabbanei Yishuv Yisham Yerushalayim. Amongst them, the rabbis of the old Yishuv in Yerushalayim. Rabbanei Agudas Yisrael Europa, the rabbis of Agudas Yisrael in Europe, Uverosham. And at the head of the entire movement, a Chazon Ish, Shalol Eretz Yisrael. Chazon Ish will come to Israel. Mineged, opposite that, Nitzu Rabbanei Tzoros HaMizrachi, were the rabbis of the religious Zionist movements, Rabbanut Rashit Yisrael, and the chief rabbinate of the land of Israel, Rosham Araya Cook, at the head of which stood Rav Kook. Shabisasu Zeheter, who provided the basis for this leniency, Robo Inan Kritin, they saw it in a critical manner, Latid HaChaklus for the future of Jewish agriculture. Shelas Heter Mechir B'Shmita Avcha Epo Le'achara Magdirim Rishonim V'Shelas Mihu Haredi B'Yisrael. The question of use the Heter Mechira during Shemitah became one of the first defining questions, one of the first defining aspects, and the question of who's considered to be Haredi. HaChakolim HaCharedim, the Haredi farmers, Rubam Anshe Pai, most of them Poli Aguda, Yodu Krishnas HaShviyas Aleim Mishpos Open Malay, they knew that during Shemitah they must completely desist from work in the field. Rubam Natshu B'Kiras HaSados, most of them abandoned and made hefker their fields, Lorach HaShemitah, for the entire Shemitah year, and they look for other avenues to make money, or they devoted their sabbatical year to learning Torah. Is the 0 year of Haredi Shemitah. I saw Shemitah's Tafrei Sariches, 3738. Shabbat Farayush Losha Kibbutzim Haredim. It's the first Shemitah in which there are 3 Haredi Kibbutzim. Kibbutz Noar Agudati, B'Kfar Saba, an Aguda Kibbutz in Kfar Saba, Kibbutz Chavetz Chaim, Yar Rechovot, Chavetz Chaim, which is a Pai Kibbutz, the Kibbutz Machaneh Yisrael. HaKibbutz HaYachid Eipam Shel Agudat Yisrael, the only Kibbutz Aguda actually had. Evidently, Noar Agudati, the Aguda youth kibbutz is not the same as an Aguda kibbutz. Shmiras HaShemitah, as I saw, Krocha B'Koshi Atzum. Keeping Shemitah there wasn't involved in tremendous difficulty. It was almost impossible. V'chilufei michtavim shekriyasa machsira pima mi'alev gam hayom. In correspondence of letters, which will cause your heart to skip a beat even today. Roshei Kibbutzim Anshe Pai, the heads of these kibbutzim and the people of Polei Agura, they pled for their lives literally. It's a Gdolei Rabbanim Be'Europa B'Yisrael by the great rabbis in Europe and Israel. But Agudas Yisrael worked at a lazy pace. Even though they made several fundraising drives for the farmers, they were not diligent at it. It shows in meetings which were held by the Chazon Ish with the leaders of the Agudas Yisrael and the old Yishuv. These all tried to bar the implementation of Rav Kook's heter. Rav Kook, of course, was no longer alive, having passed away in 1935. The Aguda failed in its mission. That Shemitah, in fact, eliminated the existence of the Agudas Kibbutz Machaneh Yisrael, Shenitash B'Sof Shana, which was abandoned at the end of the year. And that thus came to an end the story of the first and last Aguda Kibbutz. Shnei Kibbutzei Pai Sardu Amna. I guess I'm not sure what it means. Chavetz Chaim, and I guess the one of Noah Agudat in Kfar Saba. They survived. But that burning failure, Agudas Yisrael Charedim Kulam, caused Aguda and all Charedim Liskonen Kara'ui Lishmatos Abos to prepare properly for the subsequent Shmitos. Shebarena Mareches HaCharedis Klayadola Seitz Maneh Ra'ui, at which point the Haredi system knew how to give appropriate response. The Chaklim HaShobsim to the farmers who kept Shemitah, and even to protect their parnasa. So here we have a picture in Bnei Brak of the one farmer next to his tractor, with all the Haredi Jews who are not farmers standing next to it. The Chaznish, who was the major rabbi of the Haredi farmers, B'shnos Yishuv, and in the times of the pre-state Yishuv, at the beginning of the state of Israel, did not allow for compromises in the issue of the Heter Mechira. As Rosh Shanim Achar Moso, the decades after his death, about the 60s and 70s, the Haredi farmers kept up this Masorah. In the beginning of the 50s, Muna Rab Binyamin Mendelssohn, Chassid Gur Plani V'Charif, who was a sharp a sharp Gerachas in Poland, Shemittah Chazanish, who was close to Chazanish, Morim Osama Yomim, and to the great rabbis at that time, Rab Moshav Komemius. Komemius is the Agura Moshav, the one Moshav which Agura has. No more kibbutzim, they have one Moshav. In Minuyo Rabbanusa Moshav, when he was appointed to the rabbinate of the Moshav, Sheparasonis Basar Chaklus, which is based on its economy is based on farming. Ekima Rab Mendelssohn as Karen Shvis. Rabbi Mendelssohn set up the Shemittah fund. Shoseves Ksafim Malachim, which gathers money over the course of the years. There's Ogun Michasam to take care of the livelihood Shachaklim Haredim of the Haredi farmers, Shavsim Shvis, who desist from working Shemitah. Over many decades, he tik bitzah, tik tzava rak chaklaim Haredim. They only have budgeted and distributed money to Haredi farmers. Whereas the farmers of the Kibbutz Dati, which is a religious Zionist movement of kibbutzim, and in fact, the entire Israeli agricultural sector, they relied on Heter Mechira. Kiposek, like as a authoritative and independent posek, he added an additional chumrah to the laws of Shemitah. Against the Shulchan Aruch and against the traditional Masorah of Poskim Yerushalayim, he took on the position of the Mabit, Rabbi Moshe Mitrani, from the sage of Tzfas in the 1500s, according to which even non-Jewish produce, the produce of non-Jewish farmers in Eretz Yisrael, Kadosh Mikdusha Shmitas, is also holy with Shemitah, holiness. Dafka Chmara Zu, specifically this Chumash, Nishmeres B'Kaplanus B'Bnei Brak Ad Yameinu Eila, which is kept meticulously in Bnei Brak until today. Mekina Chaklaya Haredi protects the Haredi farmer Meitotzeres Chaklais Acheres from the produce of other sectors of the of other agricultural sectors. And in fact, he presents it in marketplace until the end of Shemitah, presumably because there's not much to be gained by non-Jewish produce, because it also has to be kept with the Kedusha Shemitah, so therefore there is very little gap between Jewish produce and non-Jewish produce. And what's not the meaning of Yerushalayim. The meaning of Yerushalayim is that Yivul Nachri, produce of the non-Jew, is that's no Kedusha Shemitah. Okay. Salat Yerakos Dal, a thin a vegetable salad. At Shnosa Shmonim, until the 80s. So I saw Shemittah Haredi Sheila Shel Chaklaim Yatzranim. It was a question of farmers and producers. Keisha Shomrim as Shemittah Garoi how to keep Shemittah properly. But it was very much less question of consumers. At Tzibur Haredi, the Haredi community, Shitzarchan Movil Merkazi as a leading and focal consumer of agricultural produce. It didn't exist in the quantities which exist today. The kashrut certifying agencies, Tagei Mazon, the food cooperatives, and the distribution networks, Shenitzavim Hayom, Bepinas Kol Rechov Haredi, which exists at every Haredi street corner. Hayu Oz Begeder Chalom. They were just a dream at that point. At that time, several substantial changes took place. Reshis, first of all, because parimi ideologim sociologim as a result of ideological and sociological gaps, Hachlakim Haredim, the Haredi farmers, the Itam Bnei Kibbutzim Moshavim, and the people that live in Kibbutzim and Moshavim, Nifradu B'Orach Sofim Ma'amim Sad HaCharedi. They were formally separated, finally separated from the Haredi, institutions. That's not the right word. I can't say the right word right now. The split between Aguda and Pole Aguda became permanent. It's not possible to mend it anymore. The question now, question what the farmers should do. It was less of a concern for the rabbis and the machers in the Haredi world, because they weren't their farmers. The second change had to do with the accelerated growth of the Haredi sector. The Tshuva revolution, the natural increase, the putting in place of the education network of Shas, which led to more Sephardi Haredim, which was almost non-existent previously. These Atmos Olam Yeshivas and the growth of the world of yeshivas, took place at a breakneck pace, which led to new material demands. So here we have a picture of farmers from Kibbutz Chafetz Chaim, probably a good kibbutz which still exists, learning Gemara during the 1945 Shemittah year. The third change had to do with the kashrut authorities, which became very especially essential for those who keep mitzvahs. But that's the Eda Haredi Yeshuva Yisham Yerushalayim, the badats of the Eda Haredi of the old Yeshuva Yerushalayim, which was always the standard Haredi hafsher. Avar mitzichas pnim, it passed through internal stress. Utzidois chazku rabbanios mekamios berachvei haaretz. So as went through its internal stress, at the same time, the regional rabbinates in the throughout Eretz Yisrael became stronger. And in other words, they too introduced Mahadrin Hechsheri, which didn't exist before that. The Badats was the only Mahadrin Hechsher. The first two Hasidus to break with the Badats of the Eda Haredis with bells, and that was a very bitter battle, which took years to make peace. And later on, the Agudas Yisrael standard started its own Badats, which also at first was a tremendous revolution. Ubadatzim apratim, these are the private datzim. Hamzuhim, which are identified with Kilos Charedeos Chadashos, with new Haredi kilos. Eile Bisur Aliyas Madrega, these indicated a upgrade in the level that Kefa Pikuach Kashrusisha Mazon the sphere of the kashrus hashgacha and foodstuffs. Shabbos v'achevis gavein lo heker, which also expanded and became diverse without any recognition of what it once was. At this point, Shemittah changes from a matter of farmers to a matter of consumers. But Shemittah in the last Shemittah of the 80s, Shemittah Tavshim Mem Zayin, 86, 87, Palu Bikar Arba Vado Shemittah. There are 4 Shemittah committees, Merkazios, central Shemittah committees, Itam Arbaku Vekashrus, which were run by 4 separate kashrus authorities. Haredi Haredis Yerushalayim, Muzoyim Yeshuv Yishan, Haredi Haredis, which is identified as the old Yeshuv, Harav Landau, V'Rabbanus B'Ha'ir B'nei Brak, Badatz Agudas Yisrael Hakatan. The Badatz of Agudas Yisrael, I'm not sure why it says it was small, perhaps because already Degel Torah was a separate party. I don't know why he says that, and perhaps because it's a smaller concern. Machsan Otzar Beistin and the warehouse of Otzar Beistin, Oshal Rav Nisim Karel, who was one of the Rabbanim in Bnei Brak. B'Sakol Palu Yosem Mishloshim Chaniyot Shmitah. There were more than 30 Shemitah stores, which in itself was a tremendous chiddush. When I was growing up and living in Yerushalayim, there was one Shemitah store in Yerushalayim, one, right? But then they had, there were more than 30. Sharak B'Hani Chul Charedim, Sheinam Somalet and Mechir, those pairs of clothes, only them were Charedim, was not relying on the Mechira, able to buy fruit and vegetables. Bosam Hayamim, those days, Shom Idan HaBiparim, before the well, there were beepers in 86, 87, but I guess they weren't so widespread. Before the era beepers, Shlo Laber Tafon Chachamim, and of course, it goes without saying, before there were smartphones. The kashrus hashgacha was very tough, was very stringent, I should say. Mashkiach mitan kol echad mivados hakashrus nochach basadeh. A mashgiach of each one of the kashrus committees was physically present in the field. After it was checked and certified that it wasn't owned by a Jew, so nobody was doing any prohibitions in farming it. So he would then accompany the process of the harvest from its beginning. He would stick on each box tens of stickers, with flame shown him in different colors, which are intended to prevent forgeries. And the secrets of these different colors was only illuminated to those who knew. Chen means usually Chachma Nisteres, Kabbalah. But here it means the Chachma Nisteres, the hidden wisdom of the stickers. The produce was taken to just 3 warehouses in Nebrak Yerushalayim. Shemim was asking Hayom Balei Chaniyos. There in the afternoon, they would gather these warehouses, the people who own stores, in order to acquire the little bit of vegetables which reached them. The produce would reach the store already when the sun was going down. But only then would the mashgiach of the store come, to check the stickers on the box. Tzorchanei shris charedim, Haredi Shemittah consumers, could only acquire vegetables only 2 or 3 times a week. They And to buy the Shemitah produce, they paid lots and lots of money. Obviously, it's a labor-intense labor-intense process. Since the spheres were relatively small, just 4 or 5 major vegetable the produce concerns, which got the consent of the Crash Committee. They acted as Shemittah wholesalers. Bnei Brak, because of the Chazonish's psak, Otzar based. The stores worked as an Otzar based. In other words, local chanusa with perishvis. They didn't, since all food has kedusha shmita, even that of a non-Jew. So they couldn't act as a store which is doing its business with shmita fruit, because now do business with shmita fruit. Rather, they were the retailers were officially brokers or go-betweens. Who only would collect for the wholesalers the amount of money which was necessary for expenses and labor. These agreements of shlichus, being the agents of the based in, right, which was the kashrus authority, would be on the walls next to the kashrus certificate. Kamura, it said, "Thou go ramakach shemachir papiros yakos gabo pishnayim shalosh miyiram b'shuk ragil." So the very poor supply caused the price of the fruits and vegetables to be 2 or 3 times higher than the normal price in the normal market. And the produce was inferior quality and lacking. And the overwhelming majority of fruits and vegetables were not available to people who kept Shemitah. As kedusha as hashvis, aruchas haboker. In these years, every Haredi consumer felt the kedusha Shemitah in his breakfast, in Israeli breakfast, which obviously has tomatoes and cucumbers and such like. They felt that the kedusha Shemitah with their inferior vegetables and tomatoes and cucumbers. The tamosho salat yerkos, and in the taste of its vegetables, its vegetable salad. I think we're going to have to leave the rest of this for next time because it's long. So we'll finish it next time. Okay, so right now we're up to 86, 87, and Shemitah is still, very much requires Mesiras Nefesh and requires also an understanding that you're getting fruit and produce of inferior quality at inflated prices. And we'll stop recording for today.